Hello friends, here we are, 40 nights with the Promised Consoler. Yes, we're in this beautiful earthly ship and we are sailing towards our progress. Beautiful universe, the ocean is beautiful, it has a lot of beautiful surprises, beautiful encounters, and the plane that we're living in now is the earthly one, right? And these nights are here for us to really boost our morale, make sure we don't sink, make sure we stay afloat. The challenges, the storms, the tests. Do you remember when Peter and others were fishing? And Jesus was sleeping, but the storm came strongly towards them and they were desperate, like, oh my gosh, I am so desperate. And Jesus said, what's happening? And Jesus was not sarcastic. He was not ironic. He was asking because he said, remember the faith we talk about? Why feel desperate if you know that for everything there is a reason, for you and I, for all of us? Now we know more than when Jesus came in, because he said, I cannot tell you everything, but one day I'll be able to send to you the Promised Consoler that will be with you until the end of times and will tell you what I cannot tell you now. So now we know why we need not only to stay afloat, but to trust in God. Trust that we are not abandoned, that we have loving and kind, caring spiritual company that is guiding us. And for every person who is incarnated, you have at least one true love who is by your side and is never going to give up on you. It's a commitment of the heart. As Emmanuel said in one of his books, it's about this debt of love that we have for one another. And think about, sometimes it's a mother or a father, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a friend, a spouse, a teacher, somebody at a spiritist center, anyone, a neighbor. We always have this network, the family constellation that is committed to help us in our progress. Does that make sense? It does, because we know life goes on, right? And today, talking about life, it's the chapter 23 from the book Contos desta e de outra vida, which is not yet in English, but coming about in some chapters here with us. And the title is They Will Live. This chapter is a little bit denser, but it's deep and consoling, and it brings to us new understanding of ourselves and life. And Jesus, in his verbal and non-verbal lessons, he leads us into unfolding a new understanding and freeing us from the ultimate anchor, which is ignorance. Shall we? Let us say hi to the beautiful community. Beautiful community, how are you? Adilson, how are you? Lea Severo. Ceissa, how are you, Ceissa? Love your picture, Ceissa. By the way, our beautiful Lea Severo is putting together a grid for those who want. As soon as we complete the 40 nights, we're going to release the grid so people can go back to the references and study, etc. Okay? Thank you, Leah. Jussara, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Rihanna, friends, the campaign for books to South Africa is ongoing. It's going to, remember, it's something that we are joining forces. We have been receiving donations and books, and soon we'll be able to tell you, July 4th, we'll be able to tell you the much that is going to be traveling, flying to South Africa and boosting our friendly group with Rihanna, her husband, her family, and everyone else. Danny and Erica, how are you? Sunshine, beautiful Sunshine, how are you? Constance, beautiful Constance, happy to have you here. Thank you. And you know who is here? I'm going to show to you, okay? Friends who are incarnated, okay? The discarnated we cannot show in the camera, but the incarnated ones we can. Here we have...
Hello, friends!
Carol and Mark.
It's a joy to be here with you.
Yay. Kardec Radio for Kids, Kardec Radio for Teens. Tell them what you're doing at Bose, just so they have a reference. Kardec Radio for Kids.
Kardec Radio for Kids is a program just for kids. We invite kids to listen to us, and we share the joys of Christ and the love that He has for life with little kids by telling stories about fraternity, about friendship, about life after life, but for kids, inspired by kids, and thinking of kids and the light that they bring to the world in celebration of their reincarnation. So the stories could be used as part of your God at home, or just as a way to inspire your child as an eternal spirit, immortal spirit, to think about the treasures that they already bring to earth, so that their potential as spirits can blossom more and more now, especially now that it's spring. Let's think about spiritual springing. And that's what Kardec Radio and Kardec Radio for Kids is here for, to spring the best in our spiritual health. And Kardec for Teens has the same exact purpose. Bia Lopes is leading this effort, and she's reading the Spirit's book from teens, with teens, inspired by teens, and of course Allan Kardec and the illuminated minds that brought our philosophy and our science, our way of living to us. So Kardec and the illuminated minds are our point of departure as always, but she talks to teens and with teens to inspire them to find the best in themselves, and we do the same to the best of our abilities by sharing messages from a teen in the spirit realm, a book that was psychographed by our dear Chico Xavier, the Spirit Carlos, and Neo Lucy.
Boy, what do I say after that? Other than the fact that I think a lot of, and not just kids, are listening to Kardec Radio for Kids, it seems that we have quite an adult audience as well, which kind of surprises me. A few people in some groups we've been to have told me, I really like listening to Kardec Radio for Kids. So try it. You might like it too.
Thank you,
For
Mark.
kids of all ages.
For kids
Yes.
of all ages,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, and a confession is I love the Kardec Radio for Kids too.
Yeah.
No, because it's like we all have this kid inside of us.
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking, we don't forget about our livelihood, and we shouldn't. We should. Did you like it, friends? Yes? Just go to KardecRadio.com. You know, Kardec Radio has new programs every day. Every day. Every day. And we have a 24/7 radio, and our radio is not a radio that is there for you to listen to classical music. We actually play spiritist, things every day, the whole time, 24/7, okay, no matter where you are in the world. So we are there for you every time, and committed, very truthfully, as Mentor Joseph says to me, Vanessa, we need the courage of Master Jesus to be truthful. We cannot deceive the public. promise something we cannot deliver. And we are working day in, day out to go even deeper and do better. Okay, so if you feel, you, no, not the neighbor, you. Yeah. If you feel like maybe I could help, send us a line by email, kardecradio@gmail.com. And we have an international team helping, hosts, editors. There's a lot of work, and there are beautiful things coming up this year. Surprising things. Yes, you're gonna love it. But let me share something with you. You know about the National Day of Spiritism that the United States Spiritist Council has proposed for all of us in the United States, but in the world. We could ask you to help. Why don't you record a message? Take a book like this, for example, Living Spring. Could be any Spiritist book, because it's National Day of Spiritism. So, unless you bring something else and you say, oh, you match, that's okay. And you read in the social arena. You read it, say a prayer, say your name, send it to us. You don't need to edit it. We're going to work on it. If you edit, you're going to help us a lot. But if you don't, we're going to team up to work on it. And we're going to stream 24 hours of prayers for unity in the world, unity in the Spiritist movement in the United States, and collaboration, teamwork effort, right? Hello, McCarthy Claire. Hello, Valeria. Hello, Tanya and Greg. By the way, beautiful Valeria was saying that, we could refer the book On the Way to the Light by Emmanuel to all of our community. Read the book On the Way to the Light to know more about how the history of humankind is not only done in the incarnate level. There is free will, but there is also the single opportunity of doing this, reading and understanding that the spiritual realm is there with us, okay? Sunshine is asking, what is the best way to send a recording? kardecradio@gmail.com. Usually voice files are very small, and if you add some music, it's not going to be overloaded, okay? And as soon as we receive, we're already going to upload into the system, okay? Thank you. Do you know an app that is easy to record? McCarthy Claire, the best recorder is your phone. Believe it or not. Many people are using this. Just take your phone, record it, and send it to us. Please. Hello, Julija. How are you? Ready? You need to be ready for this one. This one is a little bit more critical. Ready? Okay. They will live. 11 years after the crucifixion of the Master, James the preacher and son of Zebedee was violently snatched by henchmen from the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, and he was subjected to an infamous trial. After a summary order, James was yanked from the simple place and was put in handcuffs under the caustic sun. Approaching the base of the great temple, the synagogue, there was an immense multitude of people who was on their way. As James entered the same square in which Stephen had found the extreme sacrifice, James, meek and mute, suffers and is mocked. They declared James to be a deceiver, an evildoer, and a thief. There are those who spit on his face and rip his tunic. Death, death, hundreds of voices scream unexpected condemnation. Peter, who from afar follows James, terrified, gazes at his unfortunate brother, surrendering himself humiliated. The old fisherman, an apprentice of Jesus, is tied to the great pole, and right there, under the claim that Herod had decreed his penalty, legionnaires of the people crossed him by the sword, while the strange mob stoned his remains. Simon weeps alone as he contemplates his brother's remains, returning soon after to his humble refuge. After a few hours, the night came down to comfort his tears. From the rustic window, the conductor of the house inquires of the immense sky, praying fervently. Why the storm? Why the shameful infamy? The poor dead friend was just and loyal, unable to banish the idea of revenge. Peter thinks of the tormentors with supreme revolt. How he wished he could hear the Master now. What would Jesus say about this terrible happening? At that moment, Peter raises his tearful eyes and observes that the Christ sweetly appears before him. It is the same friend of divine countenance. Peter kneels and shouts at him, Lord, we're all numbered among the worms of the world. Why so much misery to be degraded in mud? Our name is trampled and our blood is poured out in unpunished homicide. The ferocious slander spies on us. And perhaps because the woeful man sobbed in anguish, the Master approached and said with tenderness, caressing Peter's hair, Have you forgotten, Simon? Whoever wants to come to me carries his own cross. Lord, said the weary apostle in tears, I do not renounce the cross, but I cry out against the wicked. What shall we do about Joab, the unfortunate forger who has lied about us in order to get rich? What punishment will this atrocious enemy of divine truth have? And Jesus answered with serenity, as he used to do, Never curse. Joab will live. And Aminab, Lord, what punishment to him? What punishment to him? Who planned dark trap plotting our loss? Let us forget it with a prayer, because poor Aminab, he will likewise live. What about Joachim ben Mad? Wasn't he the inspiration behind the crime? The faithless executioner who betrays everyone? what would be the horrible affliction for his crimes. Avoid condemning. Joachim will live. What about Amos? The false Amos. What did he get by selling us? Let us forget Amos, because Amos is going to live. What about Herod, the vile king, who condemns us to the death, pretending not to know that we serve God? But Jesus, without afflicting his generous eyes, simply explained, I repeat again to you, Peter, that whomever injures before the law will also be wounded. To those who practice evil, the horror of remorse arrives. And ferocious remorse possesses enough gall to bitter life. Don't you ever avenge, Peter, because the evil ones will live. And it is enough for them to reach the suffering of the cruel sentence that they cultivated against themselves. Simon lowered the face bathed in tears, but raised it for a new inquiry. The Lord, however, was no longer there. There was only the silence that the reborn moonlight adorned with light. A master that empowers us but does not babysit us. He empowers us, he's here with us, but he doesn't carry us like a baby. He says, Peter, caressing. But he has to go. Delivers the message and goes. But delivers with kindness. Are you surprised, friend? Are you? Hello, Saul. Hello, Felipe, brother. My brother. One of my 4 brothers. They exist. Oh, yeah. They live. That's good to have you here, friend. Angelita, you are in Brazil, enjoying the Fraternity Without Borders event. Thank you for you being there. Our hearts are there with you. We feel it, okay? The connection, and we are here together, right? But this text is intense. We're talking about extreme anguishes, extreme sorrow, extreme sadness. We can't be afraid about talking about these things. We need to be able to talk about our emotions. Have you observed that Jesus is a master that opens opportunities for us to be comfortable about talking about emotions? To be conscious about them. Clearly, he gives room for his disciples, the apostles now, to have clarity about what they're feeling. He did not come with the mentality of repressing the emotions. Do you observe this, friend? Jesus is not a master that represses. Many parents are like this. They see a negative emotion on a child and they immediately want to say, no, don't feel it. No, let's talk about this. Why are you feeling it? And that's Jesus' approach. But we need to be like this with everybody. But we need not to have blind spots, right? Hello, Marisa. Marisa is with us. Carrie and Mark are here with us. Marisa. Okay. So, Let's go back. We're talking about now Peter seeing his own brother being executed. That's the reality. He was murdered, executed, publicly, in ways that are like capital punishment, like the worst type ever. Then unfortunately, this type still exists on the earth, in many places, right? It's sad to say. But think about this, hundreds of voices screaming, condemning him. And when we were reading this, Mentor Joseph was saying, Vanessa, showing the scenario, the anger in the discarnates and the incarnates at the time, because of the effect of the Christ consciousness, because it's liberating. And to illustrate, he asks us to tell the story that Divaldo Franco told us once. He was doing this talk in his center in Bahia, when this man came to him and asked for help. He said, you know, Divaldo, I am married and I have children, but I have a huge problem. If you don't help me, probably I won't survive it, because I feel an enormous guilt and I feel imprisoned. I, on and off, feel this urge to go to the streets and sleep with other men. I go home and I take a shower and I feel the worst person in the world. I don't want to go through this any longer, but I don't know how to stop it. And Divaldo said that the minute he was telling the whole story, Divaldo saw the obsessor next to this man. And the obsessor started talking to Divaldo. He said, the man that is asking for your help used to be my wife in a previous life. He is not a victim. She abandoned me and prostituted herself, etc., etc. Now, she's gonna pay for it. I want to take her life and take her with me, and she's gonna learn a lesson. So the spirit, the obsessor, was pushing that man to the abyss of suicide. Divaldo, consulting with Joanna and the spirits that take care of those obsession, they recommended passes therapy, okay? And this obsession in the mediumistic meeting, in which the obsessed people should not be in, okay? It's very disturbing. No, they have to come, receive the pass, and go, and the mediumistic meeting happens without the presence of the people who are being obsessed, and the dialogue, the therapy, the therapeutic conversations can happen between spirit counselors and the spirits through the mediums. Well, weeks went by. The man came back and said, Divaldo, I came here to tell you that I feel so much better. I'm not doing that anymore, and I feel I'm almost there. The minute he approached Divaldo said that he felt that anger. And you know, a good medium knows that when you feel anger, not necessarily it's the person who wants your help that is triggering that anger, but the obsessors of the person that are pushing you away so you don't help the person. But Divaldo very skillfully understood and saw the spirit, okay? And the obsessor said, Divaldo, I'm going to destroy the bridge. And Divaldo was puzzled, like, what do you mean the bridge? You are the bridge. But what do you mean the bridge? And he said, I have a slave in an island. And you built this bridge. You're the bridge. My slave is running away from me. I'm going to cut this bridge so my slave cannot run away any longer. And that's their strategy. Many people come to spiritist centers, and the obsessors or the old companions of not so healthy things and habits, they see that they are succeeding in their endeavors of inner liberation, and as soon they see it, they start creating problems, so the person stops. And they start creating problems between those who are working in the center, those who are attending the center, between or amongst those who are working, those who are coordinating, those who are working together, etc., etc. So Divaldo overcame that feeling and kept helping the men. So Mentor Joseph wanted us to bring this story about to make us understand why people wanted to kill the followers of Jesus. Because in both realms there were minds, incarnated and discarnated ones, who didn't want people to be free. Truth is liberating. It's freeing. It frees us from our ignorance, and they want really to shut people down. That's why they killed James. They killed James in the same way they killed Christ, thinking that they're gonna shut the truth from actually surfacing to people's minds and making them change. To date, the same happens. In the book Living in Spring, we just read it. It's precisely about this. Apostles. It's the very message, the apostles. And Emmanuel here, chapter 57, that's the reason also why we were reading. He says here, quoting from Paul of Tarsus, an apostle is an educator par excellence. Willingness to work and self-sacrifice live within him or her, so that the mind of the disciples may be transformed and illuminated. He wraps up by saying, in all the great causes of humanity, they are living institutions of the revealing example, living amid the world of cause and effect, and showing themselves the essence of what they teach, the truth they demonstrate, and the light they make shine around others. This is because, and according to Paul of Tarsus, they move through this world like prisoners who are condemned to incessant suffering. Because they are instruments of high-order spirits bringing about the truth that frees people on the earth. So if you're asking, hello Bianca, why people crucified Jesus? Why people crucified, like executed, just and loyal person like James in such a dramatic way? Because when we are living illusions, we are in the trance of materialism, we are affected and bothered by those who think differently. Have you observed it, friend? Chapter 57. Oh, is there another one too, Rudy? You're saying chapter 30? Let me see. You're talking about 30? Educate. Yes, the one we read is 57. Thank you, Rudy. So, think about this. Maybe we're not going to execute anybody physically. But, friends, it's a therapeutic conversation. We need to get rid of the blind spots we have in our psyche to know who we are. Are you bothered when you see people working too much or too hard for the benefit of all? Do you feel bothered? Because usually when we are in the trance of illusions and materialistic living, we see people working very devotedly to others, and we feel upset. We feel like, oh, that person want to show off. They want to show themselves off. Or, oh, that person, they don't take care of their family. Oh, that person, they don't take care of themselves. Oh, that person. And we are actually executing them before others, because some people actually mingle to talk about those. You know, Chico Xavier went through this. Divaldo Franco too. When Divaldo Franco founded the Mansion of the Way when he was 20 years old with Uncle Nilsson, spiritists were casting stones on them, saying that they were crazy, that they didn't know what they were doing, etc., etc. Are we like that? Seeing others doing a great work and executing them? Because if people are not understanding this and they execute us, they kill us, they don't know what they're doing. But you and I, we know. If I see somebody working very hard to the benefit of all, God bless. That person is fulfilling a reincarnatory plan. By the way, this message is about reincarnation, which is the theme of the Spiritist Symposium this year in May. One of the most critical topics in the Spiritist teachings. One that is very difficult for people to embrace universally on the earth, because it can change potentially, dramatically, the way we behave. So here we have Jesus telling, never curse, pray, do not condemn, forget the mistakes of others, because people are going to reincarnate. That's their harvest. And that's why yesterday we were talking about competition. Why compete when we can just collaborate? Why resist to unity when we can be together and work together? Why? And why condemning? Why judging? Why creating lines of resistance in our families, at work, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in the universities, everywhere, including the Spiritist centers and the Spiritist movement? Hello, Rita Di Cassia. Thank you for your love and for your presence. So in this dramatic lesson, and I will read again the last paragraph. Jesus caressing Peter's hair very serenely and generously says, I repeat again, to you that whomever injures before the law will also be wounded. To those who practice evil, the horror and remorse arrives. Voracious remorse possesses enough gall of bitter life. Don't you ever avenge, Peter, because the evil ones will live, and it's enough for them to reach the suffering of the cruel sentence they had cultivated against themselves. So we need to ask ourselves, what is my motivation to everything we do? Because we're not the ones to make justice. We're here to learn and to serve, as Emmanuel says. We're here to love. We're here to fulfill God's will. Right? And since this is all about reincarnation, remember the verses. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I reincarnated to learn to do good. Are we learning? Reincarnation, the path of progress. Right, friends? So we'll keep the lesson, the reminder, and don't forget, we will also live. That means we will also reincarnate. What are we sowing today? We're going to reap tomorrow. No excuses whatsoever. What matters is not what others think of us, but what we are thinking of ourselves. That's why I say, I love and approve of myself in ways that are pleasing to God. Are we pleasing God? Are we going to reincarnate and find a garden of peace, lily, and lavender calming flowers? Or are we going to reincarnate and find a desert, not a dessert, a desert? Let's think about this, meditate, and have a beautiful night or a beautiful day.